Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name's Phil Hawkins. I work with PIXL International, and it's a delight to spend time with you today. And I'm going to share, hopefully, something that you're going to find useful. Going to place it in context of where this falls within the wider PIXL strategies. And there's going to be, hopefully, a chance for you to answer some questions as well. So we need some participation. So particularly Robert and Joyce, get ready to give me your thoughts. We'll hope all the technology works. So let me just share the screen with you. Okay, so hopefully you can see. This is something that we've talked about before on various occasions, the 8 steps to success. And you can see there down at step number 1, dreaming big. All right, so what that's really about is about expectations. All right, if we expect our children to be improving every year, every term, then there's a high likelihood that they will. If we expect, they're not a very good year group, or there's lots of problems with this exam group, that tends to depress results. So dreaming big is a really important part. But today is much more about step 2, knowing your students. And so I've got a question for you. Why would it be good to know your students better? So I'm going to stop sharing the screen there, because the participants that have joined, I'd love to hear from you, your response to that question. Why would it be a good idea to know your students better? So who would like to go first? All right. Robert, would you like to go first?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much for your question. It will be good for any teacher or a good teacher to know the students good. This will help them to identify those who are slow learners and easy learners and the middle learners, because students do differ. Not the same in understanding. They don't have the understanding capacity. Therefore, they do differ. When you link them and you understand that this one is having this capacity of understanding, it helps a teacher to give us a needable help to a student faster. For example, you may find that you are having the 10 students in a class, whereby 2 students, they normally acquire faster, and perhaps 5 students middle, and the 3 students, perhaps they take time to understand. Therefore, you have to take time to help those ones that are slow learners, so that they can be helped in order to move with these ones who are supposed. That's why we are supposed to group them, and that's why we're supposed to identify them. That's why we're supposed to know them very well, so that we can help them and assist them and move with them collectively or at a go.
Right. Thank you, Robert. That was a really great answer. Okay, so Robert really talking there about what we call differentiation, that we're able to differentiate, to slightly adapt what we're doing in the classroom to take into account the speed that children progress, because children progress at different rates. The same is true of us as adults as well, isn't it? All right. So some children get it very quickly, others so-so, and others find it much harder. And the challenge as a teacher, isn't it, is to be able to be adaptive and flexible in your class, so the children that have got it very quickly then aren't sat back getting bored because they've already finished. So we've got some extension work for them. Similarly, the children that are really struggling, we're not right, next page, next page, next page, because they're going to feel bad, they're going to feel foolish, and that's likely to impact their motivation. So it's helping them be really clear about, okay, we've got 10 questions here. We'd like you guys, let's try those first 3 that are the easier ones to really get their confidence going. And that all comes back to classroom planning and lesson planning. But Robert, that's a really key concept there about knowing your students, knowing their academic kind of ability. All right, Joyce, have you got anything you'd like to add to that about maybe another reason why it's good to know your students better?
Thank you. It's better to know your students so as you can serve students according to their differences. Students do differ one from one. So if you know them better one by one, you can serve them according to their abilities, but also to understand their problems, individual problems, to help them in various ways. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Joyce. Yes, because the better you know your students, the better you know the difficulties that they're having, the more you can help. And the students get that. They will pick up from their teachers, this teacher's actually trying to help me. Another teacher, they know I'm having a difficulty, but they're not really helping me. And that communicates all sorts of things to the student that isn't particularly helpful. So yeah, so both of you very much focusing on kind of academic progress reasons, and that's a big thing within PIXL, of course, and that's important. But I want to share with you another reason why it's a good idea to know your students better. So going to go back to the screen share. All right. So I'm going to introduce it by getting you to look at this photo. All right. I want you to imagine that you are in a small aircraft, one with the kind of propeller at the front. You know the one I mean. All right. And you are flying over this land, and suddenly the engine stops. All right. And you've got probably about a minute in the air before you have to land. And you're looking out from the cockpit of the plane, and you've got to land somewhere. And you can see immediately it's a bit of a challenge, because you don't want to be landing in those trees. That's the, you know, you're going to die if you do that. There's buildings there, but oh, can you see there's a kind of field area, but actually there's some trees there. So the point of this is, as you look at where to land, it's tricky, it's difficult. There's no obvious place to land. Okay. I'm now going to show you another photo. It's the same scenario. You're in the same aircraft. The propeller suddenly stops. And where would you land here? Hey, it is easy, isn't it? Because right in front of you is a beautiful, smooth runway. It's easy to land. All right. And the idea that I want to get across today is what's written down at the bottom of this slide, that context is the runway where learning lands. All right. The runway is made of the student's understanding of their world that forms the setting for the idea you are trying to teach. All right. So hopefully that picture has stimulated some thought there. With if we place whatever we're trying to teach the children, if we place it in their context, in their world, it connects much, much better. All right. So we know that Piagetian theory of knowledge being built on knowledge, that constructionist idea that probably all understand and know. All right. So if we're going to build knowledge, it needs to be built on the context of the children. All right. So that sounds very, very obvious. But actually, we can miss a trick by not getting to know our students. All right. So if we get to know our students by finding out about them, so this is not just academic interest. This is about who they are as people, as young people. All right. What are they interested in? What are they passionate about? What kind of hobbies have they got? All right. Because if we build up that knowledge of our students in our class, when we are then trying to teach them different ideas, if we can hook it, if we can connect it into something that they are already interested in, then learning is going to be more effective. All right. So let me give you a really personal example. All right. So I'm a science teacher. I teach all the sciences, and I was teaching. It was a grade 9 class, and it was the bottom set. It had a lot of really challenging students in there. They were not interested in education. They didn't want to be at school. Lots and lots of problems. Okay. So, and I had to teach them science. But I love getting to know students, asking them about what they've been up to, hearing about their interests. And there was one boy who made my life very difficult. His name was Jamie. All right. And Jamie was not interested in science. But through me deliberately having conversations before the lesson started, after the lesson finished, so I'm not talking about using up time within the class, I asked Jamie one time what he had done over the weekend, and he told me that he had been fishing. And I didn't know that Jamie was interested in fishing. So I said, oh, that's interesting. Where do you fish? And he told me the place where he goes to fish. And so I said, oh, do you have your own rod? Yes. All right. And what kind of fish do you normally catch? And he became animated. He started listing all of these fish, some of which I'd heard of, some of which I hadn't heard of. But I showed interest in what he was saying. Okay. So the emphasis was on me to find out about him. And that's really, really key here. Anyway, a few weeks later, I have to teach the class about forces. Okay. Push, pull, bend, twist, the basic forces that make up physics. And I had an example in the textbook, an example that I'd used many, many times about how when the length changes, the force changes, and how when a pull force changes, it affects the force that is exerted on that object. And I think from memory, the diagram in the textbook was a bit like a plank on a kind of seesaw type thing, with forces being added and taken away. But I thought, hey, here is an opportunity, because instead of using the same old illustration that I've used for years, this time I'm going to deliberately change the example, and I'm going to use the example of a fishing rod. All right. So I introduced the lesson, and I began to draw on the board this fishing rod. Okay. Now, I didn't say, hey, Jamie, look, I'm drawing a fishing rod. That would have drawn attention to him that he would have been embarrassed. So I'm just drawing on the board a fishing rod, and I'm drawing the line coming down, and I'm drawing this fish, and the fish bites on the hook and it exerts a force. And then we had a class discussion about what happens to the rod, what happens to the forces. Great discussion. So out of the corner of my eye, I'm keeping an eye on Jamie, and he is really engaged. He's really watching what I'm doing. He is drawing in his text, in his book, a beautiful fishing rod, okay? Because this is connecting with his world. Do you get it? All right. I then said, hey, what would happen if we had a bigger fish? Could any of you tell me the name of a big fish? Knowing that Jamie would be, okay. And sure enough, Jamie's hand is up, and he tells me this name of a huge fish. And I'm like, right, okay, I'm going to try and draw that, Jamie. So I drew the fish, and we talked about what would happen to the force if there was a bigger fish. And so they were beginning to get the idea. All right. I had taught the same thing, but I had deliberately used an example from somebody in my class. Now, do I use fishing in every example that no. But that lesson became a bit of a breakthrough with Jamie and I, because Jamie, he sussed out that I had been listening to him and that I was interested in him. And as he left that day, and by the way, he was really well behaved in that lesson, as he left, I said, how are you doing, Jamie? He said, yeah, good, sir, good, sir. I said, did you like the fish? He said, yeah, you're a good artist, sir. So, oh, thanks, you have a good weekend. All right, now, was Jamie a golden, perfectly behaved boy from then on? No, but that connection, that relationship began to change how Jamie approached science. And in the end, he went through and he passed his science. So I wanted to give you that story as a really good example of deliberately needing to find out about your students, about their interests. As you're planning the lesson, thinking about how could I use that information, and then giving it a go and see what happens. All right, now I'm going to go back to the sharing the screen. All right, so that's why context is so important. Okay, so gonna finish off this session, and then we're gonna have a chance for comments and questions coming up. Some key tips, a little bit of a summary of what we've just talked about. So the kind of thing that we're talking about are kind of informal conversations that you have with students, or that you can have with students on the playground, before school, at lunchtime, okay? Like, hey, did you might be into football. Did you see the football match last weekend? And they might begin to be telling you about what teams they support, or I don't like football, but I like running. My dad runs marathons. Oh, right, wow, all right. Or what did you get up to over the weekend? All right. Just hearing what they're interested in, okay? But you need to make the first move, okay? For a lot of students, you're a bit of a frightening person to approach. They're not going to come and say, hey, do you want to know what I did over the weekend? No, you need to make the first move. And your body language and your facial expression needs to be one of, hey, I'm interested, not Mr. Fierce. Why are we having this conversation? And then you can use these information points, particularly when you're asking questions. Okay, so I'm doing a lesson on the fact that plants need light. You know, you're getting a lot of science today because I'm a science teacher. Okay. Now I could just say, okay, you know, we need to know that plants need light to grow, but I'm thinking, right, I need to locate this in the children's context. So I'm going to ask, who has a mango tree next to their house? And in the class, various hands go up. Oh, right. Okay. What have you noticed about the ground underneath the mango tree? Oh, right. There's there's lots of plants. There's not a lot of plants growing under it. Why could that be? So I'm deliberately using questions based on their world to get to the point that I want to in the class. Okay. And the final thing is to share your interests too. It's not just a one-way street. You can share with them what you're interested as well, because that shows them that you're human, that you're interesting, that you have interests outside of being a teacher, and they'll actually enjoy that. That will grow that relationship together. All right. And then a bit like Jamie and the fish, using that knowledge when we're thinking about what examples to use. And I promise you, if you do this regularly, the engagement of the children with the learning just keeps going up. So I wanted just to sort of share that mini example with you, that idea, that concept with you. And now I really want to hear, you know, your questions, your observations, any comments that you've got. And I know we've had some more friends join us since I began. So all of you are very, very welcome. And I'd be really interested to hear how, you know, what did you think about what I just shared? All right, so who wants to go first? Emmanuel, you're muted at the moment.
Okay,
Oh,
let me
Joyce.
start.
Hello, Joyce.
Oh, thank you for sharing with the students. The most thing I like here is that to be the first to start the teacher, I have to be the first to start the conversation with the students, not to wait the students to speak about something. I'm the one who have to start asking the students, knowing the students, being charming. But one thing I didn't understand well is that to tell the students my interests. Why should I tell the students my interests? How is it help telling my students my interests? Maybe is that.
Yeah, Joyce, great question. So first of all, on a kind of human level, if I'm asking you about your interests and I never talk about my interests, that's a little bit strange, isn't it? Because it's a two-way thing. All right. So I'm not saying to teachers, you know, go into all the intimate details, but if Joyce, you are passionate about cooking, then you could put that into a conversation, or you've got a particular book that you absolutely love. Just dropping it in a natural way into conversation says, you know, I'm interested in interests. All right. So does that help answer that, Joyce?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah. So it's you should, you know, hey, it's like everything in teaching, isn't it? We lead as teachers, we lead by example. So anything we want to see growing in our students, we have to model it. All right. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right. Okay. So anyone else have got any comments or questions? What do you think? Do you think that's going to be, is it something that happens already in your schools? If so, how much? Jonas, you're just connecting to audio, sir. Oh, hello, Jonas. Can you hear me? No, no. Okay. Is there anyone else? Mr. Alpha, I see you on the call. Anyone else want to add anything or make an observation or a question? Please don't be shy. Part of the big part of us being together this afternoon is not for me to be doing all the talking. All right, that's not going to be that useful. We need to be able to share with each other about what we think. All right, because when we do that, we grow. And we want to grow, don't we? All right, so someone talk to me.
I think you need to pick on people, Phil. Let's hear from Alpha.
Okay, Alpha, can you hear us?
Yeah, thank you, Phil, and greetings to everyone. But sorry for joining late, but I thought I could maybe speak more for the new members on a little bit about the PIXL, because I know most of the members who have just joined are from Tanzania. I thought it would be a good idea also to share with them how PIXL has emerged an important alarm for we teachers, just to support our students perform their exam. But
Alpha, sorry to interrupt, my friend. All right, just hold off one moment, okay?
Okay.
Because I think probably what would be good is if we finish the conversation about the building relationships with students idea, and let hear anyone that's got anything to say on that, and then we can draw a line with that, and then we come to you to hear what you've got to say about your experience. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's okay.
Great. Okay. Yeah, so my friends, any of you, John, Jonas, Elpidius, Levite, Joanne, Sister
Paula usually has some good comments.
All right. Well, Levite has opened his camera. Hello, Levite. What did you make of what I was sharing about building relationships with children?
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Phil. Actually, I just joined now. Just a few minutes. I had a meeting at at office now. But I just joined in and heard about the fish, teaching about the fish. Yes, yeah. So I just heard how the student was enjoying to see the fish, and yeah, just part of fish. That's what I heard about. So sorry, I just joined late.
No, that's okay. Levite, what school are you from?
Actually, I'm not schooling, but I am a researcher, a data researcher here at the EDI. There's a company called EDI Global in Bukoba, where it deals with different aspects of research. For example, in education, whereby I've done with Twaweza organization, we have done with different organizations related to education, but yeah, so I decided to join and learn something from PIXL and have a connection with other people within the community. in the PIXL. Yeah. So in the platform, I know Janet Chapman.
Yeah.
That's what I know him, and Mr. Katanga. I don't know if he's in. Those are the people that I know in this platform.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Levi. Nice to meet you.
Yes, welcome, and it's good. Aseri Katanga, I know, invited a lot of people to join PIXL recently, so it's great that you're here.
Yeah, wonderful. Robert, have you got any observations that you'd like to make about what I shared about building relationships?
Yes, I would like to add more about what was being talked, how these students can be related, because as we understand that our students sometimes they learn from us and they would like to acquire what a good teacher does. For example, even if you are doing something which is wrong, perhaps they could even adapt and acquire. Therefore, students sometimes they learn after seeing physically, perhaps not even seeing physically, but the actions, the emotions, as we have said before, this one helps them. But I would like to comment about how my friend has been talking about that. Why should I tell a student about the interest? Sometimes, as we understand that if a teacher is a footballer, you may find that students who are much interested with footballer will follow that teacher in order to be footballers. And if you find a teacher who is a singer, some who are interested in singing will follow that teacher who is a singer in order to sing with that teacher. And you may find that if a teacher is interested in athletics, learning or dancing, other students will do that, because not all students, they all have the same talents. No, they differ from talents and they learn from other teachers' talents. Therefore, it is good to know a certain teacher's interest so that even those students who are interested to follow the interest of the teacher could follow that. And this could be helpful, and for the student to feel free that we are saying, oh, teachers are interested in this, and also I'm interested with this. Therefore, I support this. Thank you very much. This is my comment about this.
Yeah, no, thank you, Robert. Yeah, absolutely. It's like a side effect of what we're talking about. So you sharing your interest is helping demonstrate to the children interests are a good thing to have. They're part of our flourishing as human beings, aren't they? And that we've all got different interests, all right? But that added side effect is that for some children, the fact that their teacher is interested in athletics puts a little seed in their head with, maybe I could try some athletics. And that's as a teacher, that's a fantastic opportunity there to help broaden a child's frame of reference, a child's experience. So yeah, thank you, Robert. And anyone else before we move on to just some general feedback about what it's like to belong to the PIXL network? Anyone else? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Hello, greeting to everybody.
Hello,
Sister Paula speaking. Well, I came a little bit late and I have to leave right now, but I want to say, yes, building the student relationship with teachers, and especially using from what they know or from their daily living, it makes a great change in the process of learning. Like right now, I have the pre-Form 1 program going on in my school, and then it was very interesting talking to these young students, and that they had many questions. And at the end, they asked me why I wanted to be a religious, you know? Yeah. So it's like, now when you say, tell the students you are interested, they want to learn from you. And because as teachers, we are role model to them. So yes, I really agree with you. In order to help and facilitate the learning process, we really need to find a ways how we can get connected with our students and using the environment that they know, using the thing they already know and building from there. So that is great.
Okay. Thank you, sister. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. And also just to let colleagues know that Joanne, unfortunately, is in a very noisy environment. So she has typed an observation into the comment section. She says the Montessori mode of learning is very practical and visual based. It's also hands-on and helps in the student relationship building process. She goes on to say, I think it's also an opportunity for students who have other skills outside of academia. Yes, absolutely. As in kids who have strengths in other areas other than pure academia, for example, extracurricular activities. Yeah, so yeah, we're familiar with the Montessori method. It's you know, it needs to be very carefully implemented. It's you know, there's some big implications there for teaching and learning, but you know, we could maybe look at that another day. Let's see if that's something that you'd be interested in. Really based on active learning. Active learning could be, I think that actually that would be a really good thing to talk about on another occasion. Okay, so I don't think, unless one of you shouts, there's other points that you want to raise on that. I just really encourage you to give it a try, be deliberate, be intentional about having those kind of conversations with the children in your classes, and then deliberately bringing those examples in when appropriate to help you land learning on that wonderful runway. All right, okay, wonderful. So Alpha, let's come back to you, my friend. Thank you so much for waiting patiently. Could you now share what what your experience has been? Hoping that Mr. Alpha is still there. Mr. Alpha, are you still there? You're on mute, my friend. Oh no. Right. Mr. Alpha, are you there?
If Alpha can't speak now, maybe Robert can say something about his experiences of PIXL. Oh, Alpha's here.
Yeah. I thought I could speak after Robert. Hello?
Yes. So Alpha, could you now share what you were going to share earlier, please, my friend?
Yeah, thank you, Phil. I know there are heads of school, teachers, and other academia attending this important Zoom meeting. What I will have to say, as teachers will agree with me that learning is something endless for we teachers. Since I get to new PIXL, I have been looking at it as an in-service training for we teachers. You know, in Tanzania, there's no such a program. It used to be at the past, but currently, we teachers, we are not furnished with some of the important aspects in teaching. However, to me, PIXL has covered that gap of in-service training for teachers. It's an important reminder for some of the important aspects in teaching. Maybe to just say a few things which is really important for we teachers in helping the student pass the exams. It is how we teachers, we can develop a teamwork, especially in marking exams. Sometimes you might be teaching a certain subject, but because you know the students, and sometimes we tend to have a traditional view of a certain students always score best. So normally, even when we mark their papers, we always have that idea that someone is doing better in the exam. So it might mislead us. But when you mark the exam in a teamwork, you realize that sometimes you might not be correct in marking the exams. So that is also something very helpful for we teachers in grading and marking the exams. But also, there's something which we are also applying at our school, the way we do identify the low learners, especially the Form 4 students, because you'll agree with me that that bit of students do differ. The way they score or the way they pass their subjects is quite different from one to another. So I do remember when Martin visited our school, we had that challenges of student getting division 0, and we had a meeting with him at school that please, instead of teaching them all subjects, you know them, please do sit and select a few subjects for them, which are easy for them to pass. So we did that. We came to realize that Kiswahili is a favorable subject for almost students in Tanzania. We selected Kiswahili, civics, English, and biology. So we put our effort in teaching 4 subjects. The issue of competing that, if I'm not teaching history or geography, what will be the results? We said, okay, here now, the issue is we just want our student to pass their Form 4 exams. So we ended the debate of, I just want my subject, the student to score better in my exams or whatever. I said, okay, no. Here now, we just want to rescue them from getting division 0 and positioning our school to a high rank. So the results of that year was wonderful. We had only 6 students who scored division 0. That was due to the implementation of the PIXL techniques and those teaching ways of supporting the students getting or scoring their Form 4 exams. But maybe also I would like to speak the issue that you raised, Phil, this year when we were doing a leadership course. You said a very important thing that academic achievement, it is not in isolation with the discipline issues. Sometimes because of the pressure from the government that we want your student to pass exam, we normally make more emphasis on student passing their exams, leaving behind the discipline issues. We need also to pay attention on discipline issues. Controlling the student discipline is also supports much for students to pass their exams. Relating with leadership issues at the school, the way things are monitored and controlled at school also do support for the student achievements. But also the issue of student engagement in learning. It is something also which is very important. I think also I joined the meeting when we are saying something very important for teachers explaining expressing their interest to the students. I think it's also something very much important because sometimes it helps we teachers know, and sometimes we remove that fear from the students. Sometimes most of the students would approach us because now they know us. What kind of teachers are we? So it's really also helpful to keep explaining and knowing the students' ability and being closer with them. That is also something very supportful for them. So dear Phil and other members participating in this meeting, I would like now just to end up here, maybe later on. Thank you.
Wow, Alpha, thank you so much. That was amazing. That was really fantastic feedback, and I really appreciated you taking the time to do that. So thank you. And this recording is going to go on to the TDT YouTube channel. So we're hoping that all those new schools that are going to be able to hear what Robert, have you got something you want to add to that? Right. Okay. So Janet, what's should we call it a day there?
Yes, I just wanted to make one announcement. So thank you for connecting me with the person in charge of primary PIXL. So we are going to be setting up a WhatsApp group for primary soon. So once we do, I will share the link in the secondary channel, and then please invite your colleagues from primary schools to join that, so that they can also benefit from the PIXL resources and so on. So more information about that to follow. So thank you so much, Phil. I thought that was incredibly interesting and inspiring. So I will put the recording shortly. Thank you.
No, thank you, and dear colleagues, I think a couple of things that have come up today is some ideas for maybe topics for later on. So one was that active learning that we talked about earlier, but also what Alpha just raised about discipline. That you might find it useful if we did a session on managing student behavior. So we'll put those suggestions into our WhatsApp group, and we'll see whether that's something that you guys would value. Okay. And so Joanne, yes, let you know that this is shared on the YouTube channel. So this recording now goes and sits on that YouTube channel. Okay. Right. Okay. So without further ado, thank you so much for all of your time, everyone. I hope that you will, leadership skills and conflict resolution. Right. We've got a whole curriculum appearing. All right. Thank you, Joanne. So thank you for your time, and I really hope that everything that you've learned today and reflected on today, you all take back into your own schools, and you don't just keep it to yourself, but you give it away to those around you. All right. And we will be hoping to have another session. It's not going to be at the end of December. I'll liaise with Janet about when we can do that next session. All right.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye now.